I decided to set up Bogha-frois just based on my own feelings of being a member of the LGBT community and a folk musician. I always felt that those two parts of my life and who I am were totally separate. I almost had to like hide one from the other. So I just decided that there must be more people like me. When it became apparent that lots of people felt the same way and lots of really amazing musicians felt that way, I wanted to make something happen. The idea behind this is that I felt that our stories aren't being told. We want people to share their stories.
And it's for everyone.
Yeah.
People are quite often like, yeah, it's okay to be gay, but you don't need to shout about it, like, come on. That's kind of the impression I got. Like, so I play, for instance, in a duo with my partner, and we had to make the conscious decision. We're like, well, we don't hide the fact that we're a couple, but we also don't announce it, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe that's something we should do.
I think a lot of straight people, certainly now, do accept it. But I think a lot of people tolerate it, and it's very different than accepting.
They're like, I'm really good, I tolerate it, it's okay, and then kind of congratulate themselves and like, I tolerate you.
The way I now look at it is it gives you loads of stories to tell, and folk is the place to tell stories.
It is kind of like a responsibility when you find yourself aware of something that somebody else is not aware of, that you're faced with the difficult decision to be patient.
Straight cis people maybe don't realise is that it's not like this one coming out moment, like there's all this like, you know, you're in a taxi and a taxi driver's like, oh, do you have a husband? And sometimes you just like, do I want to? Sometimes I just go along with it like, oh yes, Ronald. You know, it's just
the things that you learn when you're in a workshop environment, writing songs, creating music, just anything of creative expression, I find that people's confidence can be hugely boosted because inhibitions are dealt with. Once there's music, it kind of like dictates.
I had to leave my picket sticks behind, my spare thin planks of wood for my picket signs. What loss, how irreplaceable, how will I march without them?
Being able to perform songs is like an opportunity to present an idea that kind of provides somebody space to express without anybody else really getting involved.
That feels like a verse, that could be a verse. What loss, how irreplaceable, how will I march without them?
Maybe we keep that refrain for now, like maybe and moving on to something else.
Within the folk world, it's quite liberal, really, but I think people think that it's not, just because we're working with kind of traditional, and people quite often see traditional as conservative. So I think that these workshops, it's really about visibility.
You wanted to go into maybe a minor, the more of a C-sharp minor feeling. Yeah, and then you do an instrumental for a little bit over that.
Well, it's really hard to improvise at C-sharp. It's really nice though.
It works. That sort of thing, just it's a bit different.
They were up for my cheesy chords.
Trad music, like, for me, it's about inclusivity. It's the music of the folk sort of thing. And so I think it's so important that everyone's included in that.
Where the enemy is, what is wrong, what is right. I still think we must reclaim the night.
We still make exactly the same music that we would here, sort of thing, but it's just a safe environment that feels nice and we can share experiences.
Yeah.
I wrote this poem about it being like, how will I march without these sticks? But it was several years ago and I've been fine.
For me, it's just another aspect of who I am, but I'm a musician more than anything else.
We could do like a really low hum following them underneath your spoken word bit, so that we're still there with you, like the voices are still with you.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
It feels like music and stories are kind of the perfect way to be exploring something like this, because it sort of breaks down that I'm going to lecture you about this thing, but actually I'm just going to sing to you about what's been going on for me, and maybe you might learn something about my community through it. What excites me about music and songwriting is the potential for storytelling within that. 'Cause I want to grieve for the past and the future. Can we hold a funeral for this love? I want to live.
I started trying, maybe almost forcing myself a little bit to try and write songs that did represent the non-straight part of me, and I think it kind of just made me realise like the parts of me that are also still not okay with it, and I found it very difficult to write about.
Maybe that's the first thing to look at, is that block in itself.
Write about the wall rather than what's behind it.
Yeah.
And you don't really have a responsibility to anyone other than yourself. Like, nobody has to be like a voice for everyone.
Right.
'Cause I want to grieve for the past. Over the last few years, when I've been actively singing my songs, which sometimes feels like reading your diary to people, I've become really pleasantly surprised by actually how much people are willing to hear the stories, and how surprised people are about how much my stories as a gay man relate to their stories as a 65-year-old straight woman. There's a bond there that forms. Can we hold a funeral for this love?
Agus hánica mar a bheith Josie a brín cuspaid cadish na haiche clacha go haga me gaelach is to clinching trich gan be a ladish na gael. Chushin nam clíne gan na scríb mi dan mi ein. So bheith coramach am a bhí dollar ash gan a dan sin gyfi ga a bhiocha gan a dói. Is a da hael an ish na chinna ach swyd bheith a chéir.
By the corner of my eye, laddies, you've been creeping round the Merkalun night, second in life.
I love looking at history and finding a way to get that story out, especially if it's not already been told.
Of my eye, the lassie sat at him, says, shall I always be your wife, second in life.
I love folk music because it's a way of continually telling the stories that I think we need to keep going, we need to remember.
Like a bear as you trackle into view, second in life that society cannot buy.
Folk is predominantly has an older audience, so will they be accepting of it? Do they want to hear about it? But should that matter? So it's just, I think the hardest thing is just that uncertainty and that unknown.
Big guy of the mercy or the crown at this here time.
It's about making music that just expresses yourself and is honest.
Yeah.
And because you identify as something within that community, then as long as you're playing music that's true to you, it counts.
Songwriters and singers can tell the stories through, their words. I think rarely do you hear this happens about my lover who is a man.
This jig is called the grinder jig.
Such a crime, what you find.
Straight away we felt there was just this openness and kind of space for everybody just to tell their own stories and kind of share their own experiences.
Because we'd never done it before, we didn't really know what was going to happen, how things were going to be, what we would create. The thing that surprised me most was how well everything came together, how natural it was, and brilliant things came out of it.
There's been discussion, there's been openness that's safe, so people feel able to express and say what they like. It's been contained and controlled and very loving and caring.
Asks me question after question. Is he allowed to ask? Am I allowed to answer?
I read somewhere that Celtic music kind of holds all of the grief and also like all of the happiness of the world. I think it's really true. It can be really melancholy and also really joyful at the same time. And I think a lot of these issues we're talking about are also that, you know, there's a lot of hope, but there's also a lot of unexpressed grief and anger. So I think to be exploring it through that medium is cool and right.
sé áran brisig dúldahan cuspadathe go má comanta duine as a chéisnach acinne. Be chum na ferachcanin sin a chuseachad sa gáalaigh chum nach feadh go trí.
To me, it was trying to figure out the natural rhythm within the words, but then also coming up with a melody that wasn't inappropriate for the content of the poem. Basically, we had to make this poem into a song, and we did it. When you talk to someone that you don't know, I find myself, without even realizing it, that you keep kind of censoring yourself. But there's been lots of conversations about these things, and my favourite moments have just been wee moments in conversations with people.
I wear a bracelet of scars around my wrist.
Emma, after day one of the workshops, she went home and wrote down a couple of verses to a song inspired by this idea of an elephant in the room or somebody having a louder voice than you and kind of diminishing your voice. We were able to create that into this, you know, fully fledged arrangement that really struck a chord with a lot of people doing the workshops.
The melodies have just got something richer than any other form of music for me, and I love hearing something and then have somebody explain to me what that means, and then it can take a totally different form. I love that. I like things that are not necessarily so transparent.
You're not alone in this whole world, and there's a lot of other people like you and that have had similar experiences, and so it's nice just coming together and sharing that.
It's been an experience that's been like nothing I've had before. We've told stories now, and we've made music to tell those stories, and just hopefully they keep getting passed on, and then the sky's the limit, really. Folk music's about everything, and I think the LGBT plus community are part of everything.
Charamin du, come find the